Hey friends, it's Monday. Svava Brooks here, abuse survivor coach. Glad to be here with you. New week started. If you are watching the replay, thank you for popping in and joining us. We are working our way through Releasing Your Authentic Self, my new book and guide for survivors and trauma survivors that helps you to rediscover yourself. Woo, that's a mouthful. So, it was a good weekend. How was it for you? Hey friend. Hey friends. Hey friends. How are you doing? Let me just set up my phone here before it falls over. Woo, it's a little wobbly. How are we doing today? I'm getting comfy here in my chair. Just broke a nail. Darn it. Hey Sue, how are you doing? Good to see that you're in here. You're a busy woman, staying up late on your bike. Got my tea. Hey friends, feel free to say hello and introduce yourself. Just getting comfy, gonna wait a couple minutes, see if our friends want to join us. If you're brand new to my scope, I'm so happy that you're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Can you hear me? I just want to make sure that I'm not just talking to myself here. Sometimes it worries you. Let's see, volume up, sound on. All right, thank you. Good to hear you're doing all right, Sue. One day at a time, right? I know this is a little crooked. It's a little crooked, so. All right, did you have a busy day already? Thanks for the hearts. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I know your day is almost over. Coming down to a close here very, very shortly. Don't mean to put you on the spot either, but I had happy to share how my weekend was. I had a nice weekend. Actually, you and I emailed over the weekend, so I gave you a little bit of an update of what I'm up to. What I was up to, and then I was in a workshop all day yesterday. So Saturday was nice, going for a walk, getting meaningful connection with my husband, and just, you know, taking care of the house and do some chores. You know, sometimes those things that seem the most mundane can just be kind of nice sometimes. The workshop was amazing. I need to move this because I'm not seeing your chat, and that's not good. Woo! I'm having trouble today. Well, we'll have to work with it. The workshop was amazing. I had shared a book with you guys on Friday. Sarah Payton. She is an amazing therapist, and her background is in nonviolent communication, understanding neurobiology, and basically how, you know, stress, trauma, child abuse, hardship impacts our nervous system, where things are stored in our brain. And so basically she just does such a beautiful job of explaining in the terms that I understand, right? I don't like it when, you know, someone that's been doing a ton of research, and I know sometimes that requires a different level of language to really kind of get into their you know, their profession and their subject. But I feel like most people need to be able to communicate it in a way that all of us can understand, right? So, and I also know my trauma brain sometimes struggled with, like, what does that mean? What is he saying? But she does a beautiful job of conveying all that complex information in a way that makes sense. And most importantly, my body goes, exactly, thank you, jargon free. My body just goes, exactly. And then basically we spent the day with her, where she does constellation work. I don't know if you're familiar with that healing modality, but I don't know enough about it to even try to begin to explain it. But I've never been in an all-day workshop doing that before. But it was beautiful, it was empowering, it was healing, it was 50 people really, really connecting on a deep level, healing some life challenges, and it's very participatory, so people get invited to participate from the group. Yeah, and even though you may, like, I wasn't in, like, you know, getting the direct healing or interacting with her, just hear the commonality from our struggles and the stories that we create about our struggles, and, you know, historical events or family dynamics. So anyways, there was just so much there. I'm still just kind of letting it sink in, but very excited, very empowering. And for me, the most meaningful part was to see that so many ways that I have found works for my clients, the way I help my clients, is one of the ways that she's talking about what she does, and that research is showing is exactly how we change our brain and our biology. And to kind of sum it up, is that accompaniment, that loving kindness that so often we don't know how to generate for ourselves or bring towards ourselves. We learn in relationship with other people, with, you know, a caregiver as children. But if we didn't get that as children, then it is not too late to learn that. And you can, with a coach or a therapist or someone that can provide that for you, learn, and that mirrors what that looks like for you. It's kind of like my brain provides that model of how to do that, you know, for my clients, until their brain recognizes how to do that for themselves. So that took me like 5 minutes to describe or to explain. So anyways, very meaningful, very excited that I went. It was a huge blessing, and she did this whole thing for free, and she just came up with a new book and whatever. So anyways, yay, it was fantastic. So what are we talking about today? It looks like it's just gonna be you and me, Sue, here for now. That's super special, just the two of us. And you already commented a little bit about this in our Facebook group, and just to remember, no need to comment if we don't feel comfortable, right? Remember that. We only share if we feel called to and comfortable, and obviously what we're talking about can stir some things in our heart of hearts. So I want to encourage you, right, to be mindful of staying true to your heart, and be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself as we are here together. And if you need any tools, use tapping or something that helps you to stay grounded. So let's talk about today. Hey Lisa, welcome. Glad you could pop in here. Today, day 22 in January, we are talking about shame, like some of the hard feelings. And I actually really love to talk about this, but it can definitely feel hard in the beginning. And there's Mel. Hey Mel. Good to see you. Welcome. Thanks for the hearts, guys. So glad you could be here. Sue and I have just been chit-chatting. I went on a tangent, rather, about what I was doing this weekend, but it's so good to see you guys. But we are just starting. I was going to share, and there she is with her flowers. Thank you, Mel. Thank you. Speaking of flowers, on my walk this weekend here in Portland, Oregon, I was noticing a few of the trees are starting to bud, like these teeny tiny buds are starting to pop on the trees. And I was telling my husband, I can't wait for spring. Can't wait. It's like, feels like, you know, it's such a fairyland, wonderland here with all the trees when they all start to bloom. Can't wait. Can't wait. These vibrant colors that you, like, I did not know that nature could produce those colors, but mind blown. So thanks, Mel. Thanks for the hearts. So glad to see you. Good you're here. So today, day 22, let's go to the book and see what we're talking about. It is amazing. Yes, nature is amazing. And we're part of that cycle. We are nature. We are also part of nature. We're pretty amazing too. So you can stop feeling bad about yourself and what happened to you when you were a child. Yes, we can. I know that feels out of reach for a long time and felt out of reach for a long time. Like not possible. But yes, it is possible. The first step out of many, right? Out of many baby steps. But the first step is to stop hiding our shame. Oof, right? Shame and understanding shame. That's a surprise, isn't it, right? But you must give shame a voice. We must give shame a voice. Shame cannot live in the light, in the openness. Shame only lives in secrecy and in darkness and in restriction, right? So as long as we keep shame hidden, you won't be able to heal. And then, I mean, for me, this was like, you know, some of the hardest realization was to recognize, as we've talked about, that the abuse perhaps was long since has stopped, but I was still living out of the memories or the feelings or the tension in my body, the habits that I'd created to survive it. And one of those things that we have to learn to recognize is that when we don't get our needs met as children, whether it's abuse or were neglected or just didn't get your emotional needs met as a child. I know it feels like a tall order sometimes, and I often say to my clients, listen, I recognize that most parents did the best they could. I really, I'm a relentless optimist and I'm always hopeful to give people the benefit of the doubt that every parent is doing the best they can, given with where they're at and the tools they have, the self-awareness they're in connection with, and the support they have, right? It takes a village, right? We know that. But so as long as we keep the shame hidden, and what I was beginning to say is that if we didn't get our needs met as children, we often make up stories about why. And the why for so many of us that we come up with is that somehow we are bad, that we are inherently bad. And if we feel inherently bad, that's it. Done deal. It's over. I can't change. I can't make something shift, right? So that's the kind of the crippling power that shame can hold over us and continue to kind of seep into our lives, into our thoughts and our feelings and our relationships, into our goals, into us going after our dreams, even just being seen and heard feels risky when we feel ashamed. So the questions that I shared today with the journal is, if you stopped hiding your shame, what would shame look like? And if you stopped hiding your shame, what would shame sound like? And just want to invite anybody who, is you guys here, or if you're listening to the replay, is just to explore what that is for you, and be very gentle with yourself as you just maybe write down on a page unfiltered some of the ways that you perhaps feel bad about yourself. Exactly, absolutely, Mel. Verbal, emotional abuse is a big issue about how we feel ourselves. Absolutely, and I've often said the physical, the emotional abuse is even the hardest to heal because it's so intangible, right? We can't put our finger on it. And even the sexual abuse that I suffered, exactly, is that sexual abuse hurts the inside, not the outside, right? It's more like, why are these things being done to me? Why is someone that I love and trust and am dependent on, it's like this betrayal, right? That we kind of turn it on ourselves. There must be something wrong with me. And then the tension that creates in the body then feeds on itself because it's also trying to get resolved. Your biology is trying to resolve this crippling tension. And this was something that I learned exactly this weekend, talking about this workshop that I was attending. And she talks a lot about neurobiology and how our emotions, are wired into our nervous system and in our memory. That shame actually is, generates in the body the cortisol, like the stress hormone. So if we are carrying a lot of shame, like we've talked about the inner critic here. So if we are carrying a lot of shame and kind of feel really ashamed of who we are because of that, we're feeling the need to hide and the secrets, right? Something was wrong with us. We are actually we live in this soup of cortisol overflow in our bodies that is incredibly taxing and toxic long term for our nervous system, that eventually just cannot handle the constant push of a hormone that is supposed to generate the fight or flight and freeze. Like if you're in a scary situation, that's supposed to give you the hormones to get out of there or to change. But if we're stuck in it and it just is constantly an overflow, it is really toxic for our bodies. Yes, exactly, Sue. Exactly. It makes a lot of sense, right? So, yes. So anyways, I that's kind of what I wanted to explore with you today. And in order to stop, like I said, feeling that bad feeling, we kind of have to understand, like I already said, what is it that makes us feel bad? And shame is a feeling we avoid feeling at all costs. So it's kind of paradoxical. It's like on the healing journey, our biology is hardwired to avoid pain, but yet the only way to heal the pain is to engage with it, or stay in our body long enough and present to be willing to explore, what's this pain all about? What's the truth about it? And that's where learning how to self-regulate our nervous system, learning to start apply self-compassion to ourselves when we maybe start exploring some hard feelings where there's just part of you is like, no, that's it. I'm out of here. Don't ask me to go there, right? And in a dialogue with a therapist or a friend to understand, why is this so hard for me? I'm a grown-up now. But it feels so big. It feels so overwhelming. So find a safe place to share the truth about perhaps what happened to you, where you can have heart to heart, a human to human, brain to brain, body to body, like I was explaining to Sue, what this workshop this weekend was all about. It's like we heal in connection with other bodies, with other hearts, with other brains, where we learn to model the self-kindness and self-warmth that we are learning to have for ourselves that we didn't get where we were little, but we learn that now as adults in community with one another. So if you recognize there's something that just keeps it's like a, you know, like a puppy, like constantly biting you at your heels. It's like sometimes those are like the gnawing feeling, right? There's something here, something I need to look at. I'm really hesitant. I'm not really sure if I can go there. How can you give yourself the gift of finding a safe place, of creating a safe space with another person where you can possibly somehow bring it into the light, and then have another person be a witness for you to really, you know, yes, of course that was hard. Of course you have tension in your body around that. Of course, all that emotional and physical abuse was terrible. I'm sorry that that happened to you. I'm really genuinely sorry, right? And so when we are heard and validated by, you know, a sympathetic nervous system, we recognize, wow, maybe that's how I can start to feel about my own journey, about my own feelings. And I just want to reflect here. I was talking to my daughter when was it? Friday mornings, took her to the airport. And I was actually thinking about that. She's my oldest. Hey friend, thanks for joining us. She's my oldest, turning 25 in November. And I was actually pregnant with her when I started my healing journey. It was when I got pregnant with her, that was like the catalyst for me wanting to heal, because I recognized that having children, it was, I didn't want to have my blinders on. I wanted to be healed enough to be able to be loving and supportive and caring for her. Little did I know it would take me a few more years, but, right? I started, and she was the catalyst for me, like really wanting to start to understand myself. But what I also, and was talking to her about, when she was a little girl, I used to feel so sad about this, and I can still feel sad about it, that she would fall and hurt herself as a little girl, and I wouldn't respond like as if she was hurt. I can still remember, things definitely got better. I'm being very kind and gentle with myself here, sharing this with you guys. But I remember even as a 3-year-old one time, this one event that stuck with me because she fell and hurt herself. And I just stood there and looked at her. And she looked up at me and she said, "Hey Mom, I think you're supposed to give me a hug." Right? It was like somehow in my body, because exactly, I know. And I like threw myself on the ground next to her and I grabbed her and I was like, I can still feel the tears. And I hugged her and I'm like, "I'm sorry, baby girl, of course, of course." But what I've since learned, your guys' love is bringing tears to my eyes. So thank you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But I'm sharing this with you guys because I was so disconnected from, my heart and my needs and what it looked like to provide love for myself, right? And to really be warm and nurturing for my own self. And I didn't even know how to provide it for her. Here's a little girl. I know. Thank you, Mel. Thank you. I'm okay. I really appreciate your support here. But I'm sharing this with you because, that's how disconnected I felt. And now here are my hope tears, okay? That, I felt a lot of shame. Like, what's wrong with me? Exactly. How can we know when we've never seen it? How can we do it if we have never felt it? That's the most important part. And I've always known this about myself, that I need to learn by doing it. And I used to be so hard on myself, thinking that I was stupid, right? That, that why is this so hard for me? It's like, no, my brain, I was, in such survival mode, living in this soup of toxic cortisol chemical most of my life, right? That it was hard for me to relax and come back into my body and connect to my heart, where, you know, feeling warm and kindness towards myself. And the good news is I have. And yes. All right, Ryan. Well, I'm glad you're here, friend. I'm glad you're here. I'm diving deep tonight, so be kind to yourself, and I'm applying kindness over here for myself as I'm sharing very, very vulnerable things with you. But this is how we feel. This is how we feel and heal. We talk about it. So basically, taking my daughter to the airport a few days ago, we talked about this. And she's in therapy. She's getting help with her little child, her little girl, the inner child that I can't mother anymore because she's a grown-up now. But we have the tools to talk about what happened. And it's helped her that I have... I'm a spiritual person too, Ryan. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And you're not the first one who finds me in a time of need. So I'm glad to have you. Thank you. So with my daughter, I've given her the safety and the space to have her feelings about having a mother who did not know how to really see her and really feel like and be there. You know, hey Rob, thanks for popping in. Glad you made it. And to her, so I am continue to model. No worries, Rob. We're glad you're here. So I continue to model to my daughter by continuing to reach out to her, by continuing to check in with her, to kind of create the regulation that we need in community and connection with another human being. That if we didn't get those things, right, we need to learn to do those for ourselves eventually, but it's never too late to start. And we need to learn to do that with another safe, kind, vulnerable, open, soft, loving human being. Thank you guys for all the hearts. You're making my heart sing. So, as broken as I felt as a mom, right, and I felt very ashamed, particularly of that event, and is that I slowly, over time, learned, you know, what the impact was from me growing up in a home where I never felt safe going to bed, right? I left my body, just check out, not okay. And the shame I felt because what was happening to my body, right? Because I felt responsible for it. It was just too much. So recognizing the shame and how that emotion continues, if it does continue to show up in your life, that you recognize, you know, what's the deep-seated feeling. I hear you, Sue. I hear you. I so hear you. And I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I understand. Aww. Well, I'm glad you're here, Ryan. I have to say, guys, I think that most of the people hanging out here right now are from England. Huh. So my England contingency here keeps growing. So I'm excited to hear that. Well, but that anxiety is what you're feeling is my feeling. I know, Mel. I know you're stateside. You're good. High five. Thanks for being here with me. So what you're feeling, the anxiety is, yes, you're feeling the rawness of my feelings. But it's also, I am so grateful. I was just about to say that, Ryan, who most of us here are empaths, so we feel each other very, very deeply. So, Sue, I am wanting to honor you for recognizing that you have shame in that area. And I know that's something that, you and I will continue to work on and talk about. But the first step is to recognize that, the shame part isn't helpful. Like I said, have continued to work on myself and let go of the shame of not being able to give certain things to my children that I know inherently they needed and was their birthright. To have a loving, kind, generous, connected mother, right? I didn't know. I didn't know how, and I can't beat myself up for it. I can't. That's not helpful. But with my self-compassion practice and by turning warmth against me, and it's okay, Svava. It's okay. I've accept responsibility for the things that I that the truth, right? And like I said, and I'm giving my girls the space to speak the truth, to honor when they've said, yeah, Mom, you weren't for me there, then and then. And I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And by admitting it, the shame part for me, it's like the shame goes away. And then my girls, when they could feel I truly mean it. Yeah, you're right. I'm not going to ask you, I'm not going to not validate their truth. It is their truth, right? And so I did that for a while. Exactly. Thanks, Ryan. The first step isn't accepting it. Well, and the thing is, I knew that I was on a journey to learn about love, and that's basically what I teach and talk about. Exactly. They get validated, their truth and their understanding, right? And as long as I'm hearing them, right? I'm not pushing back against their truth, no, you're wrong. No, we can't talk about it. No, that wasn't right. Or asking them because I was uncomfortable to ask them to stop talking about it. I wasn't going to do that. Exactly, Ryan. Exactly. Because I also know the most painful part about my childhood wasn't the crap that happened. It was that I couldn't talk about it. That I had no one to, to process that through. And the good news is, today, I do have an amazing relationship with my mom today, because now she is willing to talk to me about what happened to me, and she has cried with me, and she has apologized. I mean, unfortunately, she stayed in a, abusive marriage for 25 years. And I had to recognize at some point that wasn't my fault that she stayed in it, And so, yes, validating and hearing my truth, the truth that my kids are experiencing. I hear you. I hear you. And I feel very blessed that my mom has been willing to talk to me. Oh, you're so very welcome. I love to talk about parenting. I'm very passionate about parenting because I think was my healing path to learn about parenting, because who knows about parenting, right? It's it just kind of trickles down what's been done in the family, like you just shared, Ryan, right? But I recognized that also being here for my girls was also healing me. It healed both of us, and I can see that every time I spend more and more time with my mom and we visit the past. It's not only healing me, it's also healing her. And the more shame I had about the past, I wasn't putting it on her. I wasn't making her responsible for my shame or for my grief or whatever. yes, I did have a separate place where I did get to express my outrage for not having been protected and whatever I needed from my mom when I was younger. You know, I was able to separate what I needed here, but what I'm having in this relationship now, right? Find a way to have those feelings expressed in a healthy way somewhere, in a productive way. I stopped trying to take it back to her because she was just like, ugh. Well, I'm sorry, Ryan, but you're doing all right. You're doing all right. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for tuning into all of our feelings. I'm sure there's a collective, some feelings around this. I know we're not alone. We're not alone. We're not alone. But please, you know, be gentle with ourselves. Like I said, I don't think anybody's inherently bad or intentionally trying to do bad things. I just think we don't know better. And we take responsibility, and then we try to make amends where we can, right? Restore our faith in ourselves, restore our relationships as much as we can. And all of them, we may not be able to. So, I mean, I have 3 siblings. It's a bit rocky sometimes, and sometimes I just withdraw with love and light and choose not to participate because there's a lot of historical trauma, right? I know what I need. I know I need to focus on me and my family, supporting my children, and then learn to have healthy relationships outside of that, right? Where I'm supported and loved and encouraged to move on, do what's best for Svava. So, nope, happily married, 24 years. So please be gentle with yourselves, friends. Please be gentle with yourself as we explore some of these issues. But I wanted to my favorite person when it comes to shame and understanding the impact of shame just in our culture. I mean, it's so pervasive, and it's one of those things we don't want to talk about, right? Again, because we naturally, your biology is like, nope, right? We have to, like, well, what is this feeling? What's this thing that just keeps showing up in my life, right? To really understand it and understand that how it seeps into everything until we really can take a good responsibility and take a good look at it, right? Like on the abuse side, all the things that I felt like were my fault and my secret, that I'm not embarrassed or ashamed. All right, I hear you. Good. So I'm glad you're here. But what I was going to recommend is Brene Brown, all of her books. I buy the audiobooks. Sometimes when something is very deep for me, and sometimes even hard to understand because it's like been at your blind spot. I had no idea that I lived like in shame for so long. Hug would be nice, but I'm doing all right. Thank you though. I listen to the material on audiobooks. I like to hear things, so I would get Brene Brown, her books about shame, about the Rising Strong. I thought it was only me. She has a few books on intimacy and shame. And I really just started listening to her books over and over and over again until the language really started to become more familiar. It was very, very helpful. And I wrote some notes for myself here to share with you guys in preparation for the call today. So, like I mentioned, earlier, we need to give shame a voice. It's like shame cannot thrive. Shame thrives in secrecy. So when we talk about the things that we feel shame about, it basically takes this shame away. It's like bringing it out into the open. Kind of makes, it's almost, sometimes it feels like there's, you burst the bubble. And along the way in my healing, once I really started to recognize how the feeling of shame showed up in my body, what did it feel like? It's like this warm wash of like this really just feeling frozen, almost like cornered. Then once I started feeling that feeling in my body, or the sensation in my body, I started to recognize, well, how can I talk about it? And I've been very blessed, with my husband. There's been times where I've gone to him. Exactly. Hear how others felt the same as you and how they are coping. Awesome, Ryan. Good. Yes, those experiences that we go through as children, if we're still ruminating on those thoughts and those experiences, maybe questioning ourselves about it, then yes, find a safe person to talk to about it. Absolutely. So what I was saying is that I had found a way to recognize how shame showed up in my body. Where did it feel? Like a knot in my stomach, weight on my heart, whatever. But once I recognized it, I would go out of my way to, with a friend or to my husband, and just tell him, I'm really, I'm feeling shame around this. So I'm really wanting to talk about this because I don't like this feeling, and I don't think this is real. This is definitely related to something that's old and toxic. So I would really ask him to be very vulnerable and supportive and encouraging. I say, I just need you to listen. I just need you to say, honey, it's going to be okay. Thank you for being brave, for telling me. That must have been hard for you. So I learned to train him a little bit along the way. It's like, honey, I don't need you to fix it. I don't need you to tell me what to do, but this would be so helpful. I already know what to do. Thanks, guys, for all the hearts. I could sit here all day and just look at the hearts. So basically, I would go to him, ask for what I needed, and then I would tell him. After I would express what I was feeling so shamed about, it almost seemed silly. Like, and my husband's like, oh, sweetie, I'm sorry that you felt that way. I hear you. It's going to be okay, right? He would do the things that I asked for of him. And then he would give me a hug. And it was like just being validated in that most vulnerable place would like just make it go away. And of course, then there were other things that it took some time. Like when I started my healing journey talking about the childhood sexual abuse, that definitely took a long time to talk about. Like just slowly couldn't even get the words out. Like I thought I would just crumble up into, ash, just disappear out of shame. So it definitely it was a very kind of a visceral experience in the beginning. So be very, very gentle with yourself and just go slow, but find someone. Don't give up on yourself and tell yourself, oh, this feels that you don't need to talk about it, that you don't need to address it. We do. Like I said, shame creates cortisol in our bodies that keeps us stuck in your body, your biology, trying to process there's something wrong, this fight or flight mode. So shame is not good for our bodies, our biology, our nervous system. So let's see, when shame feeds the story that we are bad. Like Brene Brown does a beautiful job of distinguishing between shame and guilt. Shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad, right? Can you see the difference? And shame, blame, disrespect, betrayal, and the withholding of affection damages the roots from which love grows. Love can only survive these injuries if they are acknowledged and healed. Right? kind of sums up what we've been talking about and what I was sharing, healing my own shame and around parenting and learning how to be present and supporting, my girls and speaking about truths that they and experiences they had with me, even though those felt shameful to me, right? Is to, I also in that moment felt, it healed some part of me as well, right? So if we can share our story, this is more for Brene Brown, with someone who responds with empathy and understanding, shame can't survive. So that's what we're doing here, friends. Communicating, sharing little pieces of ourselves. We're showing up. Yes, when we have a little bit of that anxiety or the stirring in our emotions, perhaps, when you're hearing me say things or and sharing my experiences. Oh, I'm sorry. Told you you created shame. I know. I'm sorry. Definitely. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Rob. I'm sorry. And you, friend, I'm sorry. Exactly. When we hear, it is positive to recognize it. Absolutely. Exactly. To recognize, of course, right? You felt this as a result of being mistreated, right? Is that we need to validate the true feelings. And that the shame is kind of that feeds the lie that, some will recreate that story that, yes, I am bad. I'm not worthy of healing. I shouldn't continue to work on myself because who cares, right? That's the shame, that inner critic talking, versus no, that when someone speaks to us in this way, it feeds that crippling part, right? And once we gain awareness, like how that's not helpful, what can we do about it? And makes you feel any feelings. Exactly. Because your feelings are the truth. They're always, right? What you feel that's your truth, always, right? So being present in our bodies, connected enough to that's interesting. What is this feeling? Is this anxiety? Is this fear? Is this sadness? Is this joy, right? And once, what's the information coming from your body, feeding up to your nervous system to your brain for translation, right? Then what are you going to do about it? What's the next step? What's the action? And I'd like to suggest, what's the loving kindness, the loving action that can follow whatever emotion you're feeling is registering in your body? You get to choose the action, right? You get to choose how you respond to outwardly to what's happening in here, and to course correct anytime we feel something that we're going to turn on ourselves, right? Course correct, recognize, that feels like shame. How can I ask for loving, kind support where I can put that out there, express it, so I can feel heard and validated in a warm, supportive way where I can let that go, because it isn't the truth. Not today. So any more thoughts, guys? I can see the time went by fast here today. But I went really deep with us today. I hope that was okay. So glad you guys are here. And this is another one from Brene Brown. And then I'd love to hear more from you guys. Shame corrodes the very part of us that believes we are capable of change. So it's important, right, that we understand shame, because shame is what feeds that part that thinks we can't change. And that's not true, because we can change. Whew, if I can change, and I have changed so much, come a long way, thank goodness. I used to be the ice queen. Now I'm the queen of hearts, right? Hearts, I can't tell you how many heart necklaces I have and hearts all around me. If I can change, you can change. I understand, Sue. I do understand. I do understand. But that's the journey we're on. We are taking one of those I can't, every single one, and addressing it. Where did that come from? What's exactly? It takes time. What's the truth that you are basing that on, right? And the other important thing, yes, you have to. Exactly. And that's one of the key things that I look for in my clients, because a lot of people say they want change, but they're not willing. And I understand, let me just say this. I understand if someone says, I don't want to do this. I don't want to change. I can't do this. I'm not willing to go there. I'm not willing to go that deep. I will respect anyone. You're welcome, Rob. Thanks for popping in. So good to see you. Be well, friend. See you maybe tomorrow. Is that I honor everybody's choice and decisions about healing and doing this work. And it is important to do with support. We cannot do this alone. So that being said, right? I also recognize that one baby step at a time, we need to just go back and, like I said, understanding that biology, understanding what trauma, abuse, neglect does to our whole being, because we are multidimensional beings, and each part needs to be addressed and supported and acknowledged and heard, and then we can bring the whole, all the parts back into operating together. Understanding that, like I said, it's so much we are driven by our biology and the part of our brain that stores traumatic events. I have to look at my notes because I wrote it down what part of our brain that is. It is the amygdala. Amygdala, the part of our brain that holds traumatic memory, has no sense of time. This is very important information. So we're going to have to talk about neurobiology, whatever, exactly. Is that part of you who, yes, feels stuck, right? Because that memory, that event is being held in your amygdala, in that part of your brain that stores the event, and it has no sense of time. And so no wonder we will operate as if it's happening today. If someone triggers you or responds, says something that makes you feel like you were back then, you will respond with the same feelings as if it was happening 20 years ago. Exactly. It has no sense of time. Actually, Sue, I'm looking forward to talking to you some more about this. Exactly. Exactly. That's right. Yes. And also, I understand that when we start to, I'm 50 years old, actually, yes, 50 some. Once we have to change and we start to look in, right, we kind of have to question everything. And so when we ask people to question their values, how they've lived their lives, we've centered our world around certain things that we thought about the world. Yes, we question our sexuality, we question our faith, we question our relationships, we question our purpose in the world, right? It feels very risky. So the willingness, yes, I'm willing to take responsibility for the change I need to do. And with that, I recognize I need support, right? One step at a time. So, any other comments and questions, guys? This was great. I know I've done most of the talking. Thanks for chiming in. I know. Yes, it can feel scary at times. Yes. Yes. But yes, you did, Daniel. Sorry you came in late, but I'm here. If this connected with you, I'm here 4 p.m. Pacific, 5 times a week. So have a great evening too. You're welcome, Mel. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the hearts and flowers. Thanks for all the hearts, guys. I so appreciate it. And feel free to shoot me a note. Well, Rob, I'm glad it connected. I'm glad if it was impactful. I appreciate that. I love to hear that. So feel free to shoot me a note if you have any more questions. If this forum feels too vulnerable for you to ask or share something, my email is my first name, Svava, at educate4change.com, and that's educate4change.com. Feel free to shoot me an email. Let me know how you're doing. And if there is a topic that is not in the good book, right, in the good book that we're working our way through, that you'd love to learn more about, maybe I can do a special scope on those things. I certainly have lots of content to work from. So, but thanks, guys. Thank you for the hearts. I love it. I love it. Thanks for being here. Thanks for continuing your journey, because when one of us heals, the ripple effects, we are healing others through our healing. We're impacting our families and our friends in this world who needs healing big time. So thanks for doing your part, guys. Have a great evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Night nights.